Hey there, this is the Resistor Vic Podcast. I'm here to get folks thinking about politics as something that's really about regular people like you and me, and to realize that together we can make a difference. I'm Vic Myers. Welcome to the Resistance. Kelly Thompson, take 2, because we were on the other night. This was going to be episode 43 of the podcast, but her connection was really, really bad. Apparently there was a big storm going on there. I kept losing her, and I tried to clean up the recording for a podcast episode, but it just wasn't going to happen. So I rescheduled with her, and I'm actually really glad for the second opportunity to talk to you, because
yes, so
I wasn't in the right place in my mind when we started our conversation last night.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we were done talking, I'm like, Kelly is not anything close to what I thought she was.
I do fool people sometimes.
Yeah, so this is a great opportunity to do a reset, a take 2, and
Great.
Interview who I think is an outstanding candidate for Indiana.
Thank you. I agree with you.
I also owe you an apology.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
when we were talking, I brought up Evan Bay, and I shared my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't cool, because I don't want anybody to put my opinion into your mouth.
No, and listen, you're entitled to your opinion, and I had no problem with that because I was at an event last night with both of them. They were both there. We all three spoke at an event together, so I cross paths with them a lot. And in this party, I am a delegate, so I will have a vote. But with the way things shift and turn in this political climate, I vote on June 6th, I think it is. And so we're just going to wait and see how everything shakes out. You learn a lot about people when they're running for office. And every time I hear them speak, I learn more. And so
I wouldn't dare to ask you to tell us who you're going to vote for. That would be super uncool.
right.
But I am going to say, I hope that you vote for my friend.
I understand. She's my friend too, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, let's start
Okay.
over. Tell everybody, who is Kelly Thompson and why are you running for Congress?
Okay, so the boiled down version, I am Kelly Thompson. I do live in the northeast corner of the state here. I've been married to my high school sweetheart for forever. We have 6 kids, and I'm about to have my 13th grandchild. We started a nonprofit about 15 or 20 years ago, helping local families, and I learned what families were struggling with. And then I would look at the policies that were being written, and I thought, surely our legislators just don't know. They don't know the harm and the pain that is being caused by families that are doing everything they possibly can do to keep a roof over their head and keep food on their table. And so I took what I learned, what these families trusted me with, to our state legislators, and they didn't care. So in 2020, I said, you know what? I care. I know. I have the time. I have the ability. So I was going to run for the state house, and I did. But in 2020, remember, it was COVID. So we couldn't eat in groups. We were all kind of at a disadvantage, and I was running against an incumbent. So I knocked on 8,000 doors. I did all the work I could possibly do, and we moved the needle. We ended up with 45% voter penetration, so much so that they carved me out of my district in 2021, like they are so famous for doing, so that nobody who voted for me in 2020 could ever vote for me again, should I run again. But I grieved so after losing, not because I had lost, but because I knew those families were going to have to continue to wait to have a voice, an advocate for them down in Indianapolis. So I sat out for a beat, life went on, and then in November of 2024, when Donald Trump won again, I took a look at my family, which is black, white, brown, gay, straight, trans. I have a mother with stage 4 cancer. I have a sister I lost to addiction. I have a daughter who's a single mother of a daughter. My family, in and of itself, looks like a cross-section of America. And this administration was boldly declaring that each and every one of them had a target on their back. And I thought, this is just a fight I can't sit out of now. So I still have the social issues. I still think we need somebody there fighting for healthcare, childcare, education, protect workers' rights, the environment. But I also now have democracy in play. We have an administration that blows through the Constitution, that completely disregards norms, that is out and proud with corruption and racism, and uses chaos to their advantage, to distract us, to overwhelm us. And so all we can do is to continue to try to put food on our table and keep roofs over our heads, even when so many of us are feeling in that struggle because we have the most corrupt administration we have ever had that is blatantly stealing from the hungry to give to the ultra wealthy. So that's why I'm running for Congress. The incumbent that we have here is simply a rubber stamp for Donald Trump, and we deserve better. So that's me, and that's why I'm running.
That's a pretty fiery and admirable reason. And what is it about the Republicans? You said that they redistricted you out of your district.
Yeah.
These guys can't win an argument on the merits.
Right.
They can only win a fight if they can rig it to their advantage. That's why they have to say that.
Here's why. Their platform is based on lies. I'm not calling them liars because I think some of them believe the lies. But everything they do, they tell us is in our best interest. But you can only tell us that for so long before we look in our own wallets and we look in our own refrigerators and we look in our own bank accounts and we feel the pressure in our own businesses and at our own jobs before we realize, hey, they're telling us this is in our best interest, but I'm not seeing it. And so as that truth becomes harder and harder for them to lie away, the only tool they have left in their toolbox is to monkey around with the voters, because the power of the voter is to choose our representatives. And when our representatives fail to represent our best interest, those incumbents will lose unless they allow the incumbents to choose the voters.
Exactly.
And that's what they've been trying to do.
There was a lot of discussion last night at the dinner I was at. I don't know how much you listened, but I was at the Warfield County's Democratic Party Mother Jones dinner.
Oh no, I was at another dinner speaking last night. So yeah,
it's their annual fundraiser. It's a great dinner. But anyway, where I was going, there was a conversation I had with a few of the electeds who were there about redistricting. Mm-hmm. Colorado says that we have an independent redistricting commission. And I think that independent commission is because it's equally made up of Republicans and Democrats. They're like, okay, we will agree to let you have your gerrymandered districts and you will agree to let us have our gerrymandered districts.
Right.
And when we have that, the Republicans in a democratically gerrymandered district are not represented. And the Democrats in a Republican gerrymandered district are not represented. I would love to see a country where we mandate that all districts have to be as competitive as possible and make politicians earn the votes that they get.
Yeah, make them work. And here's the thing. I hate to even talk about party and the division and the gerrymandering, because the things that I'm fighting for and the things that so many of the new candidates that are challenging incumbents are fighting for are not red or blue issues. I'm fighting for childcare. It's not just Democratic families who need childcare. I'm fighting for education. I'm fighting for the planet. I'm fighting for freedoms, and I'm fighting for safety. I'm fighting for opportunity. I'm fighting for governmental accountability. This is all this should be nonpartisan. All of these issues should be nonpartisan.
It used to be.
They used to be. But the parties, both of them, have figured out how to use their platforms to divide us and separate us. And so when I think about what you were talking about, which is redistricting and how they should be as competitive as possible, that almost doesn't compute in my mind, because it feels like what we're saying is we want to have as many Democrats as we do Republicans. I want What I would rather see is say, hey, how many of you want childcare? Forget about party. How many of you want childcare? How many of you know that the ROI on childcare is 10 to 1? Why do we not have childcare? This is something we all need. It pays for itself many times over. Why is this disputed? Why is my fight for childcare labeling me as a crazy radical leftist liberal? I don't understand, except for the fact that parties use party to divide us and separate us. And so we never get what we deserve.
Okay. And I'm going to tell you now why a competitive district, if we had more competitive districts and fewer gerrymandered,
Sure,
it would deliver what you're talking about.
okay, yeah.
Because
I can see
let's just for the sake of conversation, you're the Republican, I'm the Democrat.
Right.
We're in the district, and it's a fairly even voter registration.
Right.
If I go to the election, if I go to the campaign, and I'm talking only about far left stuff, you easily win. And if you come into the campaign talking about nothing but far right stuff, I will easily win.
I see what you're saying. So
So
you
we
think it
both-
pulls
we both
everybody
have-
to the middle? Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't even think it's the middle. Because to me, the middle says a compromise between the right and the left. When, as you just said, so many of the issues, if you strip away party, apply to all the parties.
I will say I can see that benefit for sure. And as you were speaking, I can see another benefit in that the way that the lines are drawn here in Indiana is it's either very red or it's very blue. And so if you have a differing thought than the majority of your neighbors, it kind of silences you. And if you had districts that were more evenly distributed, like you just mentioned, then I think there could be better conversation about topics like childcare and healthcare. We wouldn't be so afraid of making our neighbor mad or thinking it might hurt my business or any of the things that really do go on in our heads when we feel like a red dot in a blue area or a blue dot in a red area. Really, aren't we all just pretty purple?
And if you want to lead people to change, first you have to have the people willing to listen. And when you're so red or so blue in your district that when you disagree or you bring something new, they're not going to be willing to listen because, well, you're not one of us.
Right. Yeah. Because identity comes into play. Yeah. Good. I like that idea.
But can you imagine how hard that's going to be to happen?
Yeah, it is going to be hard. Let's think about that. Why is it going to be hard? It's going to be hard because the people who have benefited from this way of doing things have made a lot of money off of it. And until we can get money out of our politics, until we elect grassroots candidates who aren't taking money from special interests, right? Who are going to owe nobody anything when I get to Washington, D.C., except for the people who elected me to be there. Then finally we'll be free to make the best decisions for the American people.
Okay. I'm going to kind of, but not really push back on you a little bit.
Okay, good.
Because what you just said, we've got to get money out of politics. That is one of the most popular what's the word I'm looking for? Motifs, if you will, among pundits, among campaigners, among the very people who are benefiting from money in politics. When Bernie Sanders says it, I believe it. When AOC says it, I believe it. And I believe it when you say it. I believe you're genuine. But the problem with the idea is that it gives voters an out, if you will. It takes the responsibility off of the voters. If all we do is say, we've got to get money out of politics, we've got to do something about Citizens United. Yeah, we do. It's really, really bad law. But if we focus too much on that, then we're ignoring the voter responsibility. I don't care how much money the guy running for governor has. He could have $1 billion in his campaign from every special interest in the world. I'm not going to vote for him if I don't think he's going to be a good governor. And I will know if he's going to be a good governor because I'm not going to listen to the myriad of commercials I see on TV and the postcards I get in my mailbox. I'm going to evaluate him myself as a responsible voter and make a decision that way. If we all did that, then all the money in the world wouldn't matter, but we don't do that. So that makes your point incredibly valid.
Right. And here's the thing, it's kind of a catch-22 because let's think about that. Why don't we all do that? What you just described is an ability to engage critical thinking skills and an understanding that those are necessary, the time and access to news sources that might be different than what other people listen to. But honestly, I think mostly time. And here's what I mean by the catch-22. People are so busy trying to survive right now. That's not hyperbole. I talk to these people every day. They come to me with impossible life situations, wanting help. That I at this stage of my campaign, there's nothing I can do for them. And so we're asking those people who are behind on their rent, who are behind on their car insurance, whose vehicle won't start, or who has a child who's sick in the hospital. And we're asking them, can you pay attention? Can you dismiss what you're hearing and cut through all the garbage and find the best candidate? It's really hard to do because life is so hard for people. If we can elect the right people to positions of power, and then we can write and craft and pass policy and legislation to get the people what they deserve, to make life a little less impossible for them right now, then we can begin to expect them to know more and to understand more. But right now, let's be honest, name recognition is key. And when people have unlimited resources, there's probably, I'm bracing myself for somebody to come out with attack ads against me, even though I can't think of a thing they could find to attack me on. That won't stop them from making something up, right? And then when people are making dinner and the TV's on, they're going to see those type of ads. And how do you combat that? How do I? I just hope that I've gotten in front of enough people that they know me.
And I'm not ignoring you, by the way. My daughter just drove up.
Oh, fine. Fine.
I was looking at my camera to see if that's what I heard. Anyway, another catch-22 to what you were just describing.
Mm-hmm.
We have to somehow find a way to reverse 40 years worth of attacks on our public education.
Absolutely.
Because we didn't get here by accident.
You're right.
To the point where we let the screen tell us what we think by accident.
Mm-hmm.
They first tore down our public education, which was giving us the skills to think for ourselves.
Yep. You're exactly right. And this is by design, right? It's decrease funding, make it so that the public option isn't working, and then come in with a plan to privatize. And then somebody's going to get wealthy, and it's going to be limited, and it's going to only help certain groups of people. This is what they do. They try doing it with our science. They try doing it with our schools. They try doing it with our post office. I mean, they're just whatever they can possibly do to glean and steal even more money out of us. That's what they're trying to do. But the first step is to be able to prove that what was going on isn't working well. And the surest way to do that is to defund it. In Indiana, we have a huge problem with the voucher system. Our public schools are losing thousands and thousands of dollars every year to this private voucher system that goes to anybody, even no matter how much money you have. You can get a private school voucher now and send your kids to school. And that just takes money from our public school system, which hurts our kids, which hurts our teachers, which hurts our small towns. It's a domino cascading effect. I mean, in these rural communities, the school is a heartbeat, a heartbeat of a community. And I know in my district right now, there's a school just north of here that did a GoFundMe to try to keep their doors open. Didn't work. They're closing. A public school.
Wow.
Yep.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And it's a national security risk. This is unsustainable. Why are we not educating our kids well? Why are we not pouring money into this as investment? Remember, Every plan I have has a positive ROI. Even if it was break even, we got to educate our people. We have to educate our people.
It's ironic because when President Obama was in office, I was on the school board in my community. And I'm all aware of what the Common Core standards were compared to what everybody thinks it was. And the Common Core standards came about because our military, our business leaders, our educational leaders, Obama got them all in a room together to say, what's going on? What's the problem and how do we fix it? And the problem was that in all three of those areas, our kids were leaving high school and unable to count change, unable to be trained in the military, basic functions. They were unable to succeed in college without taking remedial courses. And all they did, Common Core, was just a list of standards saying this is what kids should be able to do when they graduate. And the business people got a hold of that. And that's where, your Common Core math, my degree's in math. I was a math teacher once.
Yep.
Common Core math is nothing but the businessification. Is that a word?
Yeah. Like business math.
Yeah. No, they took education and turned it into a profit motive. And that's what happened. But to your point, I was bringing that up to stress, to accentuate what you said about it being a national security risk. Our military was involved in developing Common Core standards.
Yeah. That's one side of the coin, right? And the other side of the coin, with all the work that I did with our local youth here in our nonprofit, and I partnered with the schools, and I traveled the country to learn about trauma-informed education and how to really help these kids. We tend to want to blame the public schools for the slippage, or if our students are leaving without the education that we want them to have, or even that we need them to have. But what I don't know if everyone understands is the monumental task, the impossible task that we have put before our teachers to say, we need you to take all of these kids, no matter what their home life is like, no matter whether they've eaten, no matter whether they're well, no matter what's gone on, and we need you to make sure that they all achieve these benchmarks. This is why when I talk about why I'm running for office, I say everything is interconnected. The things that I want to fight for families to make life more affordable and less impossible will decrease the amount of stress in people's homes, which will then decrease the amount of trauma that is going on inside of these homes. When I was at a training, they were talking about a test that they did with students, and they brought in a room full of 30 students. They gave them a pre-test, and then the teacher taught for an hour or half hour, however long it was, and then gave them a post-test. And they had two groups of children in the room. One group had high ACEs scores, which are adverse childhood experiences. So they had a parent who was incarcerated, or there was drug use in the home, or, there's a whole list of what those adverse childhood experiences are. And the other group had very low ACE scores, a very small amount of adverse childhood experiences. And to the surprise of no one, the children with the low ACEs scores scored very high on that post-test, that they were able to listen and learn with no problem. But then what they did was they gave another test to the entire room of students. But this test had different questions on it. And the questions were things like this. How many times did the dog bark outside? The man who walked by the door in the hallway, did he have on a red hat or a blue hat? And the children with high ACEs scores scored very well on that test because they had been raised in environments that were more skewed towards survival. They had to learn how to notice danger all the time. Whereas the children with the low ACEs scores, they could just listen to the teacher. They weren't on high alert all the time. And if we forget that, if we don't know that, then we don't meet the needs of those children in a wraparound sense, which is, yes, we need safe schools. We need qualified teachers. We need to have food available for all the kids. But from my perspective, as somebody who's running for Congress, we have to take care of our families. We have to do better because the generational damage that is happening unintentionally by families who are trying really, really hard is going to continue and spiral us into a place where I don't know who we are or what we become. But I know it won't be good, and I know it won't be safe, and I know that we won't maintain ourselves as a world leader that we once were.
I got to say, the daughter that just drove up, she's a high school English teacher.
Okay.
I'm going to tell her to listen. She doesn't listen to my podcast. She's got life going on.
Oh, sure. Right? We get that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to ask her to listen to what you just said, because I am 100% certain that she will 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything that you were talking about, another thing that feeds into that is whether or not a family can make a living without working a whole bunch of jobs.
Can't right now. They're stressed. They're tired. They're scared.
And how do the young people like my daughter, who's in her 20s, she has 2 point, she's going to have another baby in September. So
right. Yeah.
2.3 kids.
Right.
How are they expected to survive in this environment that we've left it?
That's it. And that's why I'm running. This is why I'm running. It's not fair. It's not right. It is not sustainable.
I got to put your website up here right now.
Oh,
because after what you just said, I mean, it got my blood pumping.
Well, it should get all of our blood pumping, right? Yes.
And frankly, there's a couple of good guys running for Congress in my district. At least I think they're both a couple of good guys. I haven't met one of them yet, but I would trade you for either of them. This is Kelly's website, folks. Kelly Thompson for Congress.
Yep.
Kelly Thompson, FOR, Congress.com.
Yep.
And even though I did not capture the screenshot with your donate button on there, I'm sure there's a donate button, right?
There is. There sure is.
And you can go in there and learn about Kelly. One of the things that struck me the first time I looked at it, the reason I was like, this would be a good podcast guest, is that you used to be a Republican.
I did. I was a Republican and a single issue voter because church told me that was it. And that single issue, as we all know, was abortion, right? So when you don't really know what's a whole lot about what's going on, and this is why I understand everybody in my district, no matter how they vote, you can grab a hold of one thing that feels like no matter what, I can feel right about myself here. And church told me, if you're a Christian, then this is how you vote and this is what you do. And so I didn't question it because I too was so busy taking care of my 6 kids, running our business, doing everything that had to be done. I didn't have time to pay a whole lot of attention to what was going on. But my kids started to challenge me. And I remember one day my daughter Laura came home from high school and she said, "Mom, I'm a liberal." And I said, "No, you're not." She says, "Yes, I am." I said, "What makes you say that?" She goes, "Well, I was in the middle of our government class and they had us line up in the middle of the room and then they would ask us questions. And if we agreed, we would take a step to the right or left, depending upon what the question was." And she said, "I ended up clear over on the left side of the room up against the wall." And I said, "Well, what were those questions?" I mean, there had to be some confusion on the part of my daughter. There was no way I raised a liberal. There was no way. And she goes, "Well, they asked us, do we think that it's important that society makes sure that everybody has food to eat?" I mean, these were not tough questions, you know? And as she was going down through the list of questions, I realized, oh my God, I've been a hypocrite. I have raised her to believe all of these things, but yet I'm voting in a way that is contrary to all of these things. And so my kids started to call me out on it. And I thought, yeah, you know what? I got to pay attention to this. So as I woke up and started to pay attention, and in my work with the nonprofit that I was doing, I started to really, really live out what at the time was my faith, which is you love everybody, you forgive everybody, you help everybody you can, right? And then churches started to cut ties with me. And I was like, wait, what? What? And I looked at my husband one day and I said, when did going to church make it harder to be the church? Why is the church against what we're doing here? But I wasn't doing it under the covering of a church. No church had their stamp on it. Anyway, I just started to see through the BS. And I thought my faith, when I really woke up, took me left, just like it did my daughter. And now I'm realizing, take the issue. Let's talk about, I'm a pro-choice candidate for sure. It's every woman's decision on what to do with her own body. I have no problem with that. But I was just talking about this last night at a dinner. I also know that the ideal number of abortions would be as few as we needed to have, right? So I started to dig into the subject and I thought, okay, I'm a problem solver, right? Let's find out, why are women having abortions? Okay, well, 90 some percent of abortions happen because of unplanned pregnancies. So when I ran in 2020, I was like, well, let's help women who don't want to get pregnant, not get pregnant. Let's do what 14 other states at the time had already done and give access to birth control over the counter, because up until then, and in Indiana now, a woman has to take time off of work. She's got to go to the doctor. She's got to pay for that. She's got to go to the pharmacy. She's got to turn in her script. She's got to pay for that. It's hard. And so I found out that in our state legislature, a woman had introduced House Bill 1141 that would make birth control available over the counter. And our Republican supermajority at the time wouldn't even let it come out of committee to be heard on the floor, wouldn't even entertain it. And then, so this is the hypocrisy, right? If you really don't like abortions, then why wouldn't you make it easier for women to not get pregnant who don't want to be pregnant? And then let's go ahead and talk about the women who do get pregnant but decide that they can't have another baby because they can't afford it. There's no childcare. There's no OBGYNs available for the healthcare. In Indiana, there's one OBGYN for every 10,000 of us.
Wow.
We are shutting down whole OBGYN parts of hospitals. There are whole counties in which there's not one OBGYN or one hospital that will deliver a baby.
And I'm not a woman, but I know that those OBGYNs do a lot more than just birth control.
They sure do. That's the whole women's health.
Yeah.
And then you hear what we heard last week, which is the Republican Party was complaining because the birth rates among girls, let's call them what they are, between 15 and 19 had plummeted. And somehow to the Republicans, that was bad news.
Isn't that crazy?
It's mind-blowing.
It makes me wonder how anybody in 2026 could vote for any Republican. If that's where that party is gone, how can anybody vote for a Republican? And that's why I think it's going to be an incredible sweep like we've never seen before. And that's why I say we're on the verge of the death of the Republican Party, because the real Republicans have left the Republican Party, at least in elected office.
And let me tell you something. The real Republicans, when they come up and talk to me, they're not afraid of me anymore. When we talk and I explain things to them, those real Republicans, they have common sense. They are waking up. They do have that gear in their mind, so with some critical thinking skills. And when we talk, they're like, yeah, listen, case in point, my brother, I just bumped into him yesterday. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. I stopped at a gas station on my way home and he was there. He's a big Trump supporter, always has been, sharing all the Trump train memes on social media and the whole thing. I saw him at the gas station. I gave him a hug. I said, how are you doing? He said, I'm doing good. And he said, you know what? I've been watching your videos on your Facebook. And he goes, you're right about everything. He said, I've been showing your videos to my in-laws and to my friends. This is what I mean, Vic. I mean, this is where we're at, where people are like, wait a minute. I may have shared that Trump train on my Facebook, but right now his wife is sick and needs surgery and they don't have health insurance, right? The pinch is there. The pain point is there. It has hit him and now he's looking for options. And we have to make sure that we're there, ready to say, I know. He lied to us. Yeah. He did.
Yeah, my good friend, Will Westmoreland, he very fond of saying, I'm not asking you to admit you were wrong. I'm
Right.
asking you to admit that you were lied to.
That's it.
And if we can get people to get to that point, which is hard, because if
Very
you were
hard.
lied to, you have to admit that you were a sucker for a minute.
Yep. And that's
Nobody
hard.
wants to do that.
Nobody's ego lets go of that very well. And that discomfort is actually a scary place, because in this political climate, our political party that we've ascribed to becomes part of an identity almost. And to leave that means you leave friends, you leave family, you could potentially have a job at risk. I mean, there's a lot at play here. And so it's hard on your ego, but it's also scary, because walking away when you're not quite yet sure that what you're walking toward is safe either, it's scary, which is why we have a responsibility. If they want to be brave enough to entertain the idea of walking toward childcare, we have to be there ready to say, it's okay. Let's talk. It's all right.
And we have to give them a plan. We can't simply say the other guys are wrong.
Exactly.
I'm not just running against my opponent. I'm offering people solutions and plans for how it would be better.
You're exactly right. That's why
Now,
we need people like us.
Having said all that, I don't want to, I'm going to have to go and attend to my daughter and my grandkids
Sure.
in a minute.
Sure.
But I want to give you an opportunity to talk about post-election. You're in Congress.
Yep.
The Democrats have retaken the House,
Yep.
hopefully the Senate.
Yep.
What should Congress be doing about all the stuff that's going on right now?
So my belief is that Congress is going to have to get really good at being very efficient and being able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Because two paths have to be taken simultaneously. If we do take back the House and the Senate, then we need to start impeachment proceedings for this entire administration. And then we also have to do investigations, and we have to follow those investigations up when warranted with prosecutions. There has to be a price to pay for the blatant corruption and murders, etc., that have occurred. But also, we can't do that while leaving all the needs of the American people untouched. We have to be able to deliver both. We have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we have to begin right away initiating the policies and plans that are going to help the American people. Universal health care absolutely has to be started ASAP. Get that stuff done. Universal child care absolutely has to happen. Strengthen our education, schools from high schools all the way up through college. Has to happen, has to get done. And we have to do something about our wages. On our side, my plan is to have a federal jobs guarantee. And those federal jobs will first and foremost come with overhauling our energy grid across this country that our own Pentagon has identified as a national security risk. We have jobs in this country that have to be done. And when we as a government have those jobs available, we become a competitor in the fair market of employers, right? And so if we are offering a livable wage to people with benefits, then private employers are going to have to compete with us to get those employees if they're going to come work for them. And I think that is going to be a better, quicker raise in our minimum wage to give these people an opportunity to go to work every day, to work 40 hours a week, and to come home, and in that 40-hour-a-week paycheck, you have enough money to live. I'm reminded of the saying from, union organization days, we need to have bread and roses too. That we deserve to have everything we need. If we're going to go out there and work a full-time week, then we should be able to put a roof over our head. We should be able to have food on the table. We should be able to take a vacation. We should be able to have weekends. We should be able to have time with our kids. We should be able to go to Little League games. We should be able to have all of those things. And the only reason we don't is because of corporate greed, which is why I, as a candidate, am running, refusing to take corporate special interest, PAC money, none of that stuff. When I get there, I don't want anybody saying I owe them anything except for the people in Indiana's 3rd Congressional District. who donated out of their hard-earned dollars to put me in Washington, D.C. There is no amount of money anybody can pay me that is going to get me to vote against the best interest of my kids, my grandkids, and everybody in Indiana.
I'm going to put your website up again because that was amazing. Folks, listen to what Kelly's saying. I wish Kelly was running in my district because, like I say, I've got good candidates, but I don't have somebody I don't see the fire that I'm seeing in Kelly right now. This is her website, Kelly Thompson for Congress.com. Let's go there and help her win this election. I'm not going to mention Kelly's opponents by name. I mean, the Republicans are in a primary, but the incumbent's going to win that primary more than likely. And that guy's a real piece of work. He's a Trump sub. He will lick those boots and then ask for more. And I can't imagine somebody somebody like you, from what I'm hearing, I can't imagine you losing to a person like this. It will be a great defeat of good over or evil over good.
Right.
If that happens.
You're right.
So I hope everybody will, especially in Indiana, go and support Kelly Thompson. We need more people like her in Congress. And Kelly, I think we're starting to lose you too, because you've glitched up a few times. You've frozen a few times.
Okay.
So I think that's the internet gods telling us.
Okay. Thank you, Vic.
I want this episode to work. I want to publish this tomorrow morning. I want people to hear what you had to say.
Great. Thank you so much.
I'm going to give you the last word. Is there anything that we haven't said or talked about that you want to make sure people know about Kelly Thompson?
I just want people to understand that I am not the only candidate in this country right now that is just a normal person who wants to go to Washington, D.C. and fight for normal people. Find those candidates. Donate to those candidates. $5, $10 a month, whatever you can give, that matters. And then when I get to Washington, D.C. and they pull up my FEC report, they will know that I'm there to work for you. I've received donations from every state in this country because they know once they hear me that I'm fighting for all of us. So find those people and please donate to them. I have some people that just do $1 a month. I do my own reports, so I see every donation that comes in. And I know that those $1 matter to everybody. So find the candidates you believe in and please consider financially supporting them because that's the only way we take our country back.
Well, that is a great last word. I'm going to ask you to add to it. Where can people find you on social media?
So I am on Facebook at Kelly Thompson for Congress. I encourage you to go there. We have 61,000 followers now. And if you would be so kind as if you like something I say, you share it. I'm also on TikTok at Kelly for Indiana. I'm on Instagram. You can find me anywhere, really. Twitter, or I guess it's, what's it called now? X?
Yeah.
All over the place. So just Google me. You can find me almost anywhere. And if you like what you see, one way that you can help this campaign without spending a penny is just to hit that follow and then that share button so that other people can find out about me as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Kelly, for being one of my better podcast guests.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me another round.
That's good. I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that we were able to make it work. I'm sorry for the awkwardness of me showing up an hour early.
No problem at all.
But this was great, and I sure appreciate you being on.
Oh,
and for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much for making us part of your day.
Great.
Good day. Well, folks, looks like we're back at the barn, and it's time to call it a day. I sure do appreciate you spending your time with me. If you want to help keep this podcast going by supporting me, you can get a paid subscription on Substack, where I'm Resistor Vic. Or if you're the type that'd rather go to PayPal, I'm also resistorvic@gmail.com. Thanks again.